Ever sit with friends after dinner and the conversation drifts? No one ready to leave, but no one knowing what to do next? Someone laughs softly, someone scrolls, someone says, "We should play something," but no one remembers a single game that isn't either too long or too complicated to explain. We forget that play doesn't have to come from a box. It can come from the moment itself, from what's already on the table. The flicker of a candle, the clink of a glass, the small pause where imagination still lives. What if AI could help you find a game that fits that moment? Here's the secret. AI doesn't have to get more creative. Here's the secret. AI doesn't get more creative when you give it freedom. It gives... Here's the secret. AI doesn't get more creative when you give it freedom. It gets more creative when you give it constraints. AI doesn't really understand what fun feels like, but it knows how to echo. AI doesn't really understand what fun feels like, but it knows how to echo your version of it. We'll start simple, then we'll tighten the rules. And finally, we'll let it unravel into something gloriously strange. So we'll train it to invent a game, not from code, but from context. In tonight's episode, I'll go over how to train AI to be a game maker. Hi, I'm Frankie, and welcome back to Promptwell's AI Joy Cozy Lab. We run small experiments in joy, powered by AI. In the Cozy Lab, learning happens one quiet moment at a time. Before we start, let's take a slow breath in and out. We'll relax our jaws, drop our shoulders, and settle in. Now let's begin. I'll be using a fresh chat with no memory so that it's exactly what you see if you open ChatGPT for the first time. Let's start with our first prompt of the night. Here's a simple, smart game you can run with nothing but home objects. You can adapt it for adults, teens, or tiny humans crawling around helping. The first suggestion here is Game House Quest. See how to play. You can play co-op with everyone working together or versus. So the turns are one player draws a mission from the bowl and reads it out loud. Start the timer. 60 to 120 seconds works well. Players rush to fill the mission using home objects. When the time is up, everyone stops and presents what they did. So as you can see, with that very general prompt, it did come up with, I think, is a very interesting game. But there is a lot happening here. I am still scrolling. Remember, what we wanted was something simple that didn't take a long time to explain. Reading this whole prompt is going to just take us 10 minutes, and then we have to try to remember all of these rules. I think we can do better for our objective. Second prompt of the night. Create a simple after-dinner party game with exactly 3 rules. It should be easy to play with things I already have at home. Let's see what happens when we give it some constraints. As you can see with this new model, it actually tells you what part it's thinking on. Here is a super simple after dinner game you can run with things you already have at home. The game is Dish It or Ditch It. It's a social bluffing game about your recent life. Light, funny, and perfect when everyone is full and a bit sleepy. So, there are 3 rules. You can see it's quite brief. 3 rules: write and toss. Each player secretly writes 3 separate statements about their real life on 3 small pieces of paper. 2. Draw and interrogate. Players take turn as the reader. 3. Reveal and score. After questions, everyone counts to 3 and votes at the same time. Thumbs up if they think the statement is true. Thumbs down if they think it's a lie. The real author then reveals themselves and whether the statement was true or false. Everyone who guessed correctly gets 1 point. The author gets 1 point for each person they fooled. Play until the bowl is empty or energy dips. Highest score wins. So as you can see, this is much easier for a group of people to just pick up and play. And it definitely gives after dinner vibes for people to really get to know each other and bond over some laughter. But I think we can make this, again, just a little bit more interesting. Let's see when we give it, let's see what happens when we share who is at the dinner table. Our last prompt of the night reads, create an after-dinner party game with exactly 3 rules for 6 people who have all dated each other. It should spark competitiveness. It should be easy to play with things I already have at home. Now I think we've given it a challenge. It's thinking about designing a party game with 6 competitors. Game design, the X Hex. Refining the round structure. Ooh, this thought for extra long. Here is a spicy little after-dinner game for your chaos crew. The game name, it changed the game name. Who broke who? Okay, I have never read anything like this when I have not read anything quite like this when I've tested this prompt. Objective: collect the most points by writing juicy, believable relationship statements, correctly guessing who did what with whom, fooling everybody about your own history. Rules: exactly 3. Set up the X circle. Everyone gets 6 small slips of paper and 10 tokens for scoring. Sit in a circle. Pick one person to start as the target. They're the one all the statements will be about this round. The target's name is written at the top of each slip this round. With Frankie, I once. 2. Write the dirt. Mix it. Read it. For the current target, every other player writes 1 true statement about something that actually happened when you 2 were dating, phrased so it's not obviously real. For the current target, every other player writes 1 true statement about something that actually happened when you 2 were dating, phrased so it's not obviously you. The target writes 1 convincing fake statement about something that never happened with anyone at the table. Everyone folds their slips and drops it into the bowl. The target shuffles, then reads each slip aloud in a neutral voice. 3. Guess, score, rotate. After each statement is read, all non-target players secretly place one token in front of themselves if they believe the statement is true. 0 tokens if they think it's fake. Then the target points to the person they think wrote it. The actual writer immediately reveals themselves and whether says the statement is true or false. The actual writer immediately reveals themselves and says whether the statement is true or fake. Scoring for that slip. Target gets 2 points if they correctly guess the writer. Otherwise, the writer gets 2 points. Quick example prompts for statements. To keep people from freezing, you can suggest formats like with blank. I once ruined an entire weekend because with blank. The pet nickname that should never see daylight again was with blank. The most unhinged argument we had was about optional spice, as if this wasn't spicy enough. Okay. Use of the vibe allows. Tiebreaker. If 2 people tie for first, everyone else writes one anonymous most likely to about each of the tied players. Group votes on the funniest, most accurate description, and that person wins. No extra prompts, maximum drama, fully competitive. I'm actually going to save that one, so excuse me. That one is too entertaining to let slip away. When you try the first prompt yourself, it'll probably give you something generic. A game you could play, but nothing that stirs anything inside you. The second usually starts to warm up. There's a sense of playfulness, like inviting friends to linger a little longer. But the third, that's when AI slips into character. That's when it stops being a machine and becomes a little bit of a storyteller. When you add mood, AI starts to improvise. When you give it the relationship between all the players, it starts to perform. Try it yourself. Want to train your own AI to be a game maker? Here's the recipe. 1. Start simple. Ask for a game, an activity, or a ritual that fits the moment you're in. 2. Add a feeling. Cozy, competitive, mischievous, dramatic, soft. Feelings shape the rhythm of the game. 3. Share the relationship between the players at the table. Siblings, former lovers, enemies, enemies to friends. Once AI knows who's at the table, the whole world shifts. Here's the quiet part out loud. AI doesn't create connection, it creates permission. A good game isn't about the objects you use. It's about the moment between the rules when someone laughs or softens or notices something new. AI just hands you the spark. You choose where the warmth goes. Thanks for hanging out in the Joy Lab. Check back next week for a new experiment in joy. See you next time. Same lab, new experiment. Bye.